She tried to seduce Lucian, but it didn't work. Um, she winds up running into Patrice, the woman that waxed her, and they have drinks, and she's never had alcohol before, so she's wasted. They're talking to some man who's in town for a convention. His name's Steven. Eventually, Dugan and Lucian show up and get her out of there. And he had said to her, like, I thought you didn't drink. And she's like, I'm doing a lot of things for the first time, you know? So they get upstairs. And when she seduces him, he gives in, but he only eats her pussy. And he does make her come multiple times. And he does say to her, like, you're making me break all my rules. It's driving him a little crazy. So she wakes up the next morning. Of course, she's got a bit of a headache. She ordered up some breakfast, nothing that could get cold, waited for him to get up, and then they wind up having this blowout combo because she just kind of said to him, I'm sorry, combo. Where did combo come from? And she said to him, like, why didn't you have sex with me last night? You know? He said, you're innocent and you can't handle what I do. So the real reason Slade hates her, apparently, is because Slade and Lucian used to fuck the same woman. I'm like, okay. And so he's like, you're not ready for that type of stuff. And he feels awful. And so she just loses it. She told him to shut up. She's like, listen. She's like, stop pretending to know anything about me and my life outside of this hotel because you don't. She's like, I was born under a bridge to a heroin addict, you know? Like, I'm not going to be anybody's charity case. This isn't going to work because you're always going to see me that way. And so she packed her stuff up, ripped a damn zipper to her backpack, poor girl, and held her head high and walked out. And he wouldn't even meet her gaze when she said to him, I hope you find what you're looking for. And said goodbye and she left. We then switched to Lucian's POV. And I thought we weren't going to get his POV because the whole time we've just been from Scout/Evelyn's. And so I was just like, oh, we're never going to get it. Oh, we have it. You know, I love it. So he, of course, feels empty with her leaving. The problem is he wants her to come back, but he knows he isn't quite, because it's crazy. He's not ready to let her go, but then he's scared to go after her too. So we find out from his memories that the woman that him and Slade shared, her name was Monique. And he thought the way that Monique was, she was just, the best, sophistication. She was confident. And now he kind of sees her as she really was just a spoiled brat. She didn't like hearing the word no. Slade brought her a motorcycle, and it sounds like that's how she met her demise, on that motorcycle. So it makes sense why he has to be in control. Makes sense. So his friend Jamie calls him, and Jamie's like, he just finished fucking some woman. Asked him about his little piece, and he was like, she's gone. And Jamie realizes he means like gone, gone. And he tells him, basically, he made the comment, Lucian did, that Slade didn't like her. And Jamie says, honestly, I don't think you should be sharing women with Slade. You shouldn't be basing things like that off of him. Because if you're crazy about her, you shouldn't be sharing her. And I think, honestly, that's why Slade doesn't like her. He sees the possessiveness that Lucian displays towards that girl, and he's never seen that before. So that means now the dynamics are changing, and he knows if he wants a life where they share women, guess what? That's gone now. So it makes sense of why he doesn't like her and why he's been saying stuff to try and get her to leave. It makes sense, you know? And he realizes he wasn't as crazy about Monique as he thought he was. So his homeboy Jamie's going to come over and they'll have their little combo. We fast forward 4 days. He hasn't been able to sleep a wink. He gets himself ready, goes to a meeting, and it happens to be with a woman whose name is Paula Morris, and she helps run the St. Christopher's Church. So she basically tells him there's a lot of structural issues. Thanksgiving is tomorrow, so they'll have an influx of donations, which will last about 2 weeks. But it's just a lot of stuff with the structure that needs to be fixed because they're not going to pass fire inspection if it doesn't. They would have been shut down long ago. So he's going to order like gloves, coats, things like that, get it sent over as soon as it can. And then the structural things that needs to be done, he'll get with Slade so they can talk about it, because apparently Slade is a real champion for this place. His mom was on the board and she was into philanthropy. She died and he picked it up. And so he knows that Slade called him that night with that info about Scout Evelyn because he thought it was going to terminate the interest, right? If you find out she's homeless, you're not going to want her anymore. But if somebody is possessive over you, I would think that will make them even more so want you, because now they want to protect you even more. Even more so. So it backfired on him. Then he thought, oh, it's Thanksgiving. He hadn't even thought about it, so he's got to go to the estate, spend it with his sisters. So we fast forward to Thanksgiving. He's there with his sisters, Isadora, Antoinette. They call her Tony, and she brought her boyfriend, Peter. Is it Peter? I think it's Peter. Peter or Henry, something like that. Anyway, Lucian doesn't like the guy. He feels like Antoinette. He just feels as if that's his baby sister. He's always going to see her a certain way, even though she's the same age as Evelyn. Okay. So we get a little backdrop on the family. So their father, he's still alive, but he lives overseas with his mistress, whose name is Tibet. Now, I don't know if we can still call her a mistress because their mother died when he was like 12. And the dad wanted to be with the mistress, but he did not want the scrutiny from the upper class for this decision. So he left and went and lived his life with the mistress. So they, of course, went to the best schools, the best of everything. And their grandfather had started the hotel, the Patras Hotel in Folsom. And this little town, now it's worldwide, and that's where their wealth comes from. But he came out swinging on his own and became a fierce businessman in his own right. Lucian did. So he, of course, is thinking about Evelyn and thinking about the fact that she's going to find comfort in Parker now, because he told her, like, he's in love with you. And she couldn't even fathom it. And but I think she's got to know on some level. She just doesn't want to look at it like that. This is the space that he's in. He's my friend. We're going to keep him there, right? That's the safe space. Because the other stuff could mess stuff up. That's what I think. So afterwards, he says goodnight. And him and Dugan take the longer route home. We fast forward to that Monday. He goes into the building and hears a bunch of sniffles, and he knows winter's here. Um, Slade and Jamie are coming over. They get there and he tells Slade, "Hey, can you make sure there's someone to receive the coats and stuff that I sent over?" And he's like, I talked with someone, and he says, what did he say? He said something else. But Slade looks at him and he's like, "You did what?" He's like, "Well, we have other issues, the fire inspection. And Lucian says, "Yeah, I heard about that. I was going to send someone over to handle it." And Slade goes, "We're tapped out. We can't do anymore." Now, these are filthy fucking rich people, and they're saying they can't do anymore. He then proceeds to tell him the shelter closed down on Black Friday. They failed the fire inspection. Lucian unleashed. He's like, "You fucking knew and you didn't say anything?" He's like, it didn't matter. They'll move on. They'll find another shelter. And he made a comment saying that that girl was nothing but a poor excuse for a Monique. All homeless people do, they're just addicts, thieves, beggars, like crazy shit, is what he said. And he came to realize that no. He said to him, once you realize you'll be better off, you'll leave it alone. And he's like, I knew if you saw where she came from, you wouldn't really want her, you know? And then you still did. So Lucian winds up punching the shit out of Slade. And he realizes Slade isn't really into philanthropy at all. He's not that good of a person. He wants people to think he is, but he doesn't care about people. And so he realizes Slade is a piece of shit. He kicked him out, and pretty much, I don't know, their business partners, all three of them, I don't see how that's going to work. I don't know if it's just maybe the termination of the friendship, but it's a little harder to dissolve a business relationship, you know? So our boy Lucian has been traveling the lower streets of Folsom trying to find our girl. He calls her Evelyn, so I guess when we're talking from his POV, we'll say Evelyn. And he's not having any luck. He goes to where, you know, there's like this, it sounds like where he described it was the mill, the tracks. And this guy's there with this ratty old coat. It's got like moths eating through. It's crazy. And so he asked him if he had seen Scout. And the guy was kind of like, what do you want with her? And he's like, I just want to make sure she's okay, blah, blah, blah. So he gave the guy his coat. And the guy told him, she used to come and check on Pearl. But Pearl, Pearl used to take care of the men around here when she needed her fix. But she got sick and she moved on. So it starts to register him what Pearl was doing. So now, of course, he decides we have got to find her. He doesn't get back to the hotel to 2 a.m. because they still didn't find her. So the next day he goes out, but he doesn't take Dugan because poor man been up. So he gets another driver. I think his name is it Quincy? I think something like that. And he asked him to take him to St. Christopher's. So he's got people already trying to get the place back open. He's got the permits done. He's trying to get it back open. So he sees Parker and they have a conversation and he put it all out there. He's like, actually both of them did. Lucian is like, listen, I don't want to hurt her. I really just want to give her everything that she deserves. You know she deserves better than this. I want to help her. I do not want to hurt her. Parker is like, you really hurt her. Like, she doesn't cry and you changed that. That kind of broke Lucian. He's like, and I want to make it right. Just help me make it right. So Parker takes his time because he's trying to move up too, right? He's trying to get out of this predicament. So he says, I'll help you find her. He hasn't seen her in 3 days, but he's got a pretty good idea where she is. He's like, but I want a job at your hotel. And once I get back on my feet, and I'm going to need some time, but once I do, I want a fair shot at her. Like 1 month. You give me an opportunity to come to her, and you don't interfere. Now he says to him, Lucian does, now you know she's not going to like it. She doesn't like when you do stuff behind her back, X, Y, and Z. He tells him, you leave that to me to worry about. Do we have a deal? And so he could tell Parker didn't grow up this way. This happened to Parker, which means he's got to be watched because this isn't an idiot. This guy's stealth, And so they shook hands. Agreed. Parker gets in the vehicle, tells them where to go, and After that, he tells the driver, take Parker back. Clint, that's the name of the driver. He says, take Parker back to St. Christopher's. And Parker's like, wait a minute, we had a deal. He said, and I'm still honoring that deal. I will give you a job, be at the hotel at 6 a.m. He said, but you have to maintain that job. Like, you've got to show up on time. You've got to work hard, you know? Because if you don't, I'll let you go. And so he says, all right. But he also tells him, he says, you have until she agrees to be my wife. So you already know Lucian gonna stack. Make sure he wins. So then he, of course, goes in. It's a disgusting place. He finds her in space in the corner, balled up, and this woman looks like death. And he grabs her, and he's like, it's me, Lucian. She said, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm coming to get you out of here. The woman in the corner starts coughing. She goes to give her some murky water. He asked her, like, who is she? And she said, that's my mother. And he was like, oh God. She understood. I'm sorry. He understood about losing a mom, right? Because he lost his mom. So the woman's dying, but she's like, she asked him, why did you come? And he said, because I love you. Is that reason enough? And she had tears in her eyes, and she just said, yes. They get back to the hotel. He called Dr. Vivian Sheffield over. She checked on Pearl. They're waiting. Vivian comes out, tells Evelyn blatantly, because Evelyn was like, is she going to die today? She said, no, she's not going to die today. But she does have hepatitis. She does have an infection, respiratory issues. She's got to do, right now, we got to dry her out, right? Because she was thinking like, she had admitted her mom was hooked on heroin. And she's like, I can go and get her some. And they're like, no, you cannot do that. That is not happening again. She's got to dry out. So she gave them a name of a place where she can go once she's ready to go for detox. And she let her know this is going to be hard. And she made a statement. The fear that she has with her mom is that her mom will always choose death over being sober. How sad is that? My thing is, so why you keep fighting for her? But I get it, that's your mama. But I'm just saying. I didn't have that type of a parent, so this is very unfathomable to me. But for someone who does, it's like, when can they stop the cycle? When can they stop? I've heard of people who have cut off their family members because of the toxicity, and that they were decided, nope, not going through this anymore. But for her to make that statement of that my mom would rather be dead than to be sober, to me feels like there is no hope. Why are we trying? This is just putting this burden on you that is just, oh my gosh. I just feel so bad for this girl. I really do. Vivian leaves. The mom starts shitting on the bed, screaming, putting Evelyn through hell. Evelyn is beyond exhaustion, but she will not leave her mother. It is wild. So once Pearl went to sleep, he kind of told her, go get a shower, get some rest. I'll sit in here with her. He cleaned up the linens for the umpteenth time, and he stayed there. And he just he couldn't believe how Evelyn was able to talk to her mom with such patience. Her mom screaming at her, saying all kind of nasty shit to her. And he's wondering if the mom has dementia as well, because she would go in and out of recognizing who she is. And it's a lot. And so his phone's been ringing off the hook, but he's not answering it for the next few days because he's going to help Evelyn through this. So Pearl wakes up and she's like, Scout, am I in a hospital? Where's Scout? So he goes and gets her. She comes in and Pearl just rips into her. At first she says, I need a fix. She tells her no. She goes off on her. Tell her, you're jealous of me. You always got mad because all the men liked me more than they liked you. So I don't know. I mean, it could be mental or it could be she's just a piece of shit of a human. I don't know. So, again, he's looking at this like, how in the hell can this girl take this? You know? Like, oh. So, Evelyn snapped at her because Pearl had said, like, I'm your mother and you should this and that. And she said, why don't you act like a mother? And when she tried to slap her, Evelyn took her hands and stopped her, and she said, don't. And so he had had enough. So he took Evelyn, shut the door behind him, took her to the room, and just held her and let her cry and let it out. And she just says she doesn't mean it. She doesn't know what she's saying. And he just didn't say anything. He just, he just held her. That's all he could do was just hold her. This is so sad. We fast forward like 4 days. They're finally able to take her to the clinic. Clinic is out in the middle of nowhere, so if she leaves, she's probably just gonna die anyway. Cause she ain't gonna, unless she can hitchhike a ride back to the city, she gonna be stuck like Chuck. So we'll see how that pans out. I don't have too much hope for Pearl. Um, they get back. She's pretty silent. She cries. They eat dinner. She draws her bath. I'm sorry, he draws her bath, and then after she comes out of the bath, she tells him to please just make love to me, just like I need you to wipe away the last few weeks. And so that's what he does with no protection, comes inside her. But he's very well aware of what he's doing because he says he wants to see her swell with his child. Now, could it be real love or could it be this bitch trying to win this competition? I don't know. Could be a little bit of both. Next morning, he wakes up after her and she's kind of staring at him and they wind up having another hard fuck. And this time it's like a hard one. And throughout, he's just kind of telling her how he's never going to leave her and all this type of stuff. He told her he was addicted to her. And I was just kind of like, maybe that's not the best choice of words to use when she got a mom that's a whole addict. But anyway, I digress. So he comes inside her again. He's trying to get her pregnant. That's exactly what he's trying to do. So I feel like he's setting it up so where when Parker comes back, there's no way. He's told her he loved her, but she's not saying it back. So I don't know. So at this point, he feels like Parker might just, I don't know. He feels like Parker's not going to, how does he say it? Like he's going to give up on the job, right? Like he's a beggar and he's not going to change. But I'm like, see, this is where you finna get stupid because Parker's a determined motherfucker. Like, he's been wanting this girl for a long time. So, I think Lucian knows he's got to move all the odds in his favor. Because just having money, that ain't enough. He's got to find other ways to get her to be tied to him. And again, he says he'll win at all costs. I just hope it doesn't make him lose her. So they went and they got in the tub. They wound up fucking again. He winds up taking the shower head, putting it on her clit, and making her come like multiple times. And then she's like, I can't do anything for 24 hours. And he was like, I don't think I can go a few hours without being inside you. I'm like, well, damn. He took her to a sushi place. She was not keen about eating raw fish. She did like the vegetables. So she can rock with those vegetable rolls. They get back, and while they're coming back, he tells her, 2 weeks he's going to be going to the house outside of the city. And she's like, you're leaving? He's like, if you wanted to stay back, you can. You will never not have a place to go. He's like, but I was hoping you would come with me. And his sisters are going to come, And so she agreed. They get inside and she wanted him to eat her pussy, but then she know how to say it. And so he winds up eating her pussy, fingering her ass. She tends to like it. He tells her within the coming weeks he's going to fuck her in it. And he's like, every hole I'm going to teach you how to please me and how to give yourself pleasure and all this type of stuff. So he makes her come a couple times, and then he fucks her hard and comes inside her again. She falls asleep, and that's the end of that. So they fall into a routine. While he works, she watches TV. He bought her a laptop. She doesn't so much interest in that. He tried to teach her Scrabble, no interest. They have sex a lot. He does get progress on Pearl. It's slow progression, but she is progressing. Evelyn's not ready to see her. Not just yet. So when she walks past him and he was ready to fuck, she was like, my period's on. And he was kind of disappointed because, he was trying to get her pregnant. So then she kind of says to him, we haven't talked about it, but we haven't been being, really protective, And he tells her, I don't want any barriers between us. And she's like, yeah, but we've got to be practical. So she's going to go visit Dr. Vivian. What did he say? He tells her, I can still fuck you. There's ways. And so she was just kind of like, what? And so he winds up giving her a blowjob session, teaching her how to do that. And she seems to kind of be a natural. And he comes on her tits, and then he makes her come by rubbing on her clit. They go wash up. They go to bed. And of course, he realizes a couple things. He does not want to share her with anybody. And it used to turn him on, the thought of like his woman being with someone else in front of him and all this type of shit. But he can't do that. He's too protective. It freaks him out for anybody to touch her. So the fact that he cares about her whole well-being, her emotional state, her physical state, everything about her, he wants her to be content. He has never felt that way about anyone. So this freaks him out a little bit, but at the same time, he's going with it. He's going with it. They were on their way to the house, and she had gotten freshly waxed, and she said, Patrice told her she had to wait 12 hours. And he brought up the fact that Patrice likes her, like that Patrice would be okay with going down on her. And she's like, no, that's not possible. And he's like, the night that I came and got you from the bar, she was talking about how pretty your pussy was and all this type of stuff. And so she got uncomfortable with the conversation. And she's like, we're not talking about this, And he makes a comment to her that she's ignorant to certain things, and that pissed her off because she's like, I'm not stupid. He said, I never said you were. I'd be upset too, because I'm like, you could have used a better choice of words. It's like you could have said to her, there's pleasure that you can have with toys that you've never experienced. There's ways you can say stuff. You don't have to say you're ignorant to it. I know it's not always a bad thing when you say that, but she's very sensitive, and she comes from this like a zero background, so it's like you got to be a little bit more thoughtful with what the fuck you say. I'm just saying. So then he starts telling her about like how he can take a toy cock, put it in her pussy, his dick can be in her mouth, and a toy can play in her ass. And she just about came from that description. And then he said, oops, she said we had to wait 12 hours. He also told her, your orgasms belong to me. And he knows that she's been making herself have orgasms with that shower head. And she's like, how does he know? Because she's been being quiet when she does it. And now she really does feel like she is a goner because she doesn't want a disappointment. She only wants to please him. She's addicted to him. The fact that he treats her like she's more important than he is. She's never had that, and she's become addicted to it. They get to the house, and they went and they got a Christmas tree. They went and got a horse. It was like a sleigh and all this type of stuff. He can cook, so they've sent the staff home, and he'll be the one, cooking and all that type of stuff. And plus he says like his sister, one brings sides, the other brings other stuff, so they'll be fine. Desserts. So he told her he got her a whole lot of gifts and that he was going to get her a whole lot. And so he had these notes. So when she woke up, there was like um, a red ribbon around her ring finger, and she followed it. And there's these notes attached. Of course, she can't read them. So when she gets to him, um, she's like, you're my favorite gift, X, Y, and Z. And then his sisters are going to come in a couple hours. And she's like, let me call my mom. And she calls her mom. And the mom was like, when you come and see me, like, can you come by yourself? And she's like, okay. And she felt something like homesickness a little bit, like she never had a home, but she just felt off. So he came to her, she was getting ready, and he's like, what's wrong? And she's like, it's been a lot. It's very, very overwhelming. And he feels like he can't win because he's trying to give her everything. He gave her 22 gifts, and it was a gift for every year that she missed. And she made him read the notes, and they were really, really beautiful notes, pretty much saying how he wasn't living until he met her, how much he loves her. Beautiful notes. He took it as they weren't good enough, and he says, well, I'm sorry, I'm not a poet, but I tried to express how I felt. And she finally confesses to him, it's not that, it's that I can't read. And he goes, oh, Evelyn, I didn't know. And she said, I know because I didn't want you to. And she tries to make a joke and says, I bet you believe me now that I wasn't trying to read anything on your desk. But he didn't laugh. He tells her, I will teach you anything you want to do. I will teach it to you. And that made her feel good. I thought it was special. It was the right response. He didn't make her feel bad. He didn't. It was very much, this is something I can help you with, and I will. This means something to you. I will help you do it. And so she knows she's in love with him. And she also knows that this shit is going to end badly and she probably won't recover. The sisters came. She liked them both. They were both really sweet to her. Jamie had come. He was looking at Antoinette, aka Tony. Now, they kept exchanging looks, even though her boyfriend Peter was there. Now, Tony has had a crush on Jamie since she was a kid. It's always been like, I'm going to marry Jamie. Well, now she's adult, you know? And so it's like, they're giving these looks. I'm like, something's going to pop off with those two. Our girl is on birth control, Evelyn. She got an implant, something where every year she gets it, a shot, maybe that's what it is. So they leave and she winds up going to visit her mom. Her mom wasn't what she expected. She actually felt worse after the visit. Her mom was just kind of blah, not really talking. It was like she didn't enjoy her being there at all. So they go back home. The sisters wind up leaving, and so she's ready to be fucked. Because they've had sex, but it's had to be really quiet. But now that everyone's going out of the house, girl's like, she needs it. So he tells her, go upstairs, get naked, sit on the bed. She does it. He comes up. He's got 3 gifts. A blindfold, some cuffs, and some oil. He said, you choose one. Every night, I'm going to come up with 3 gifts, and you choose one, and we'll use that toy. Well, she chose the oil. She knows that's for anal. So, of course, it hurts at first. Then it starts to get great. And she was ready for it again. So, it doesn't take the place of regular sex, but she definitely loves it. And she fell asleep. And he does the normal routine of, like, wiping her clean. So, they left around New Year's-ish. They visit her mom again. He stayed in the lobby. She went to visit her mom. At first, the mom was all sweet. And then she started, I need you to get me some. I need a fix. I just need one. She realizes, same old fucking Pearl. Then the woman started berating her. And when she told her no, she just, she needed to wait a little longer. She just kept saying, she said all kind of fucked up stuff to her. And she was, she made the comment, if I could, I'd kill myself, but I'm too weak. Just awful. So Evelyn, it's just as bad. She left the situation, I mean, it's just as bad. She's still in the same mindset. So when they get back, he can feel she's putting a distance between the two of them. And he tells her, I'm not going to let you do that. Just because your mother hurt you doesn't mean that you can put distance between us, you know? And she realizes that's what she was doing. I think she loves her mother. Her mother hurts her. She loves Lucian. She doesn't want to feel pain from Lucian. So he's put reading things on her iPad to help her read. Um, she now knows that LOVE spells love. She's learning her words. A knock on the door comes. It's Patrice from the salon. And she's saying she was there to bring up the books because, like, I guess Lucian audits them every now and then. And so she's thinking that he's trying to, like, he had her brought up because he's trying to see if she'll be into this, right? To women. She gets drunk drinking wine. He comes home. She bites his lip. She's being aggressive. And he is like, why are you acting like this? He gave her something to change into its lingerie. And when she came out, Patrice was gone. And he was like, did you think that that's what I was doing? That I was going to share you? And he said, you have moved into a place in my heart that no one ever has. And I will never share you. He's like, but you can't act up like that in front of people because you're assuming something. So then they had a nice hard fuck. And he's saying to her, like, who does your pussy belong to? Who does this belong to? Da 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 da. So she thought of Parker. Actually, she thought she saw Parker at the hotel, but she's like, no, it's not possible because that person had more meat on their bones and, looked a little different. Like, nah, she's just thinking she saw him, but that was actually fucking Parker because she don't know he working there. So her thing is that she doesn't want to get pulled back into her old life. That girl is not trying to go back to St. Christopher's, okay? She hopes he's doing well. She knows that old boy is pouring money into it, for Christmas, but period. Like, he's pouring a lot of money into it to help make sure, because no one sleeps on the floor anymore. Um, you know, she ain't getting pulled back into that life, and she does love the fact that Lucian is trying to help other people. So Lucian's been on the phone. Looks like he's upset about something. And then he left out. She had a dance lesson because he wanted to take her to a club, but she's like, I don't know how to dance. So he hired a dance instructor. The guy's gay, of course, because he ain't gonna let no straight man just touch her. He invites her down, and he's got a ton of balloons, a cupcake with a candle in it, and like 21 or 22 other cakes for each year that she was born. And she thought it was the sweetest thing ever. And when she blew the candle on the cupcake, her wish, of course, was for this man to never leave her life. We now switch to Parker's POV. And, this is like, I don't know how to describe it, but, when they start doing multiple people outside of the main two characters, it's ridiculous. I love it too much. So Parker's a doorman. This guy drops his wallet. He looks at the wallet at first and considers taking him. He's like, nah, I'm not going to lose this job. I'm not going to lose this opportunity. So he chases down. He has to go quite a while of distance to get to the back of the limo. Bam's on it. The guy comes out. He's like, hey, you lost your wallet. The guy checks it, makes sure everything's there. He's like, why did you chase me? He says, well, it's your things, like, you should have your things. So he tells Parker to get in, and he's like, my driver can take you back. And the guy says his name is fucking Slade Bishop. And so he finds a way to pull out of Parker the deal. And we get some backdrop on Parker. So Parker's name is Parker Hughes. His dad was Crispin Hughes. Crispin Hughes, there was two big wigs in the city, okay? It was Lucian's dad and Crispin. But apparently, he was doing like Ponzi scheme shit. Because old boy was in college, Parker, at like 14. So Parker is really, really smart. And when everything hit the fan, the dad offed himself. And so the government seized all their assets. And so him and his mom, that's how they became homeless. And so the story, that's how it goes. So Slade offers him a way to get the money quicker, because he's like, listen, because Parker's just like, he wants to get a place to live. It's comfortable, food on the table, give her what she needs. That's the life that Scout should have. He doesn't feel like having money, like having too much money, like that'll be a problem, right? So Slade offers him a deal. I'll get you a corner office. You're clearly smart. I'll pay you 3 times what you're making right now, and you can get to her quicker. So, of course, Parker says, I don't want to hurt her. So, if you're trying to hurt her, there's no deal. And he says, oh no, I don't want to hurt her. I just want to get her away from my partner. And that's how it ends. So next week we'll dive into book 2, Breaking Out. What did you all think? I really like this, but you know what? It really gives a little bit more credence to my theory that Parker kind of wants to keep her in a certain space so that she would have to depend on him. Because if you're telling me this little boy was 14 and in college, he's fucking brilliant. She would have learned reading by now. She's a quick learner. She's not an idiot. So that means he wanted to keep her to where she was more dependent on him. And you see the life he shows. Well, she just needs the basics in life. She doesn't need anything else. And I get why he feels that way. I do. But I also feel like she could be something great, and you don't want her to be something great. You want to keep her there with you. Because she's a good person. And you don't meet good people all the time, right? But she's a really good one. And it's like, I don't know, but I'm not feeling Parker. I think Slade dropped that wallet on purpose because he had to have known who he was, because he was there when the commotion went down at the shelter that night. He was there, so he saw Christopher. He saw, not Christopher, that's the name of the shelter. He saw Parker. He saw Parker punch Lucian. He saw this guy being protective of Evelyn. He saw it. So I don't think that was a coincidence. I think that was a test to see what he'll do. And if he does the right thing, then I can use him. Slade is a son of a bitch, I tell you. But I really liked it. What a great recommendation. It's a little different because I'm trying to remember any of the books we've done where someone was homeless. And I really can't remember. Even with the Fables of Happiness, the guy had a home he lived in. I mean, it was awful what happened to him in the life and everything. But he still had an actual home. A mansion that he lived in, but she's never had that. So I think when someone's never had it, it's kind of like how those rich people were with St. Christopher's. It was like, just give them the bare minimum. We can do more, but we're not going to do it. Just give them the bare minimum, because that's all they need technically. But it's like, why not give them more if you can? Why can't they be a little bit more comfortable? Like, what is the problem? Because it's not like she tries to remain homeless. She works, but things happen at these jobs and she has to leave. Like, she can't sit up there and be, she gonna fuck for just a little job. At least with this one, with this guy, it was like, this guy's filthy rich. This is a real come up as far as I can take advantage of this, right? It was transactional, but she was okay with that transaction. not the other ones that were trying to be forced upon her. You know? And it was a great thing she wasn't there that night, because the creepy guy winds up almost raping someone, and that could have been her. You know what I'm saying? So I really liked it. It had a lot of great things. I can't stand the mom. I feel like the mom has been trash her whole life, and that's just my opinion. But what did you all think? Drop down in the comment section and let me know. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available. And the links are going to be available down in the description section below. Make sure you like and subscribe. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.